start putting metal up, I like to see where my ribs fall on this metal. We know that right here will be the end of a piece at 21 feet. So we know there will be a rib there, and there'll be one 9 inches back, which will be back here at 20'3". So that'll be fine if we just start with a full piece. Basically, what I don't want to have is a rib right here, where when I put this corner on, it'll set right on top of that rib. And I'll show you on this corner that I already put on the other side. So basically, if this corner would sit on top of this rib, it would sit up like that, and it would just be all jacked up. So you always want to make sure your rib is either underneath the corner or behind it here. So I usually just measure the roof, and if I need to, I'll cut a piece off to make sure this corner is either underneath it or behind it. When you get your metal, it's usually all in a stack, so it requires a lot of unstacking and putting it in separate stacks. So one of the easiest ways to stack metal or unstack metal by yourself is to just pick up the one side, and instead of dragging it off, we'll just give it a flick like that. And also, when setting it back down on the stack, you just get it lined up and just drop the whole thing like that. Now that the roof is prepped, the next thing we need to do is pre-drill our metal. I always like to pre-drill it because there's no guesswork as to where the screws go when you tack your metal up. Every screw has a purpose. You put your screw in, you're all nice and straight. I usually mark every 2 feet on top of the rib on the first 4 ribs. There's no point in marking the last one because it's underneath. When it comes to drilling the metal, I like to use a 1/8 inch steel drill bit. Be sure to get a good brand because it makes all the difference when drilling the metal. And on the bottom here, whenever I just put screws along the bottom, this is the only place on the whole roof I will put the screws in the flat. Just because if I put them on the rib here, it tends to squash this rib if you want to tighten them down snug, and it just makes it look bad. So I'll put screws at the bottom. I'll measure up 3 inches, and I'll put them on the flat here, 1/2 inch away from each rib here. You can also use a punch, basically take a nail punch and sharpen it to a really fine point and punch them out, but I prefer to use a drill bit. Just seems to make it easier. You can do a lot more pieces at one time. You can pre-drill probably up to about 20 pieces in one stack. This is only 4 pieces because this is all I need for this section of roof I'm doing. On the second row up, and all the rest of them, I will mark them all at 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, all the way up through there. And all those will be on top of the rib. Make sure you're dead center of the rib here, and just punch them down through like that. Get ready to put my metal on the roof, what I'll do is I'll take a bunch of pieces and just lean them up against the roof, so when I get up on the roof I can just pull them up individually and not have to climb up and down the ladder for every piece. There's a couple of different tricks in handling metal. Like this piece of metal, for example, is 24 foot long, so it weighs about 50 pounds, so you got to really give it a good flick to get it off of the stack. Instead of dragging it that way or dragging it off to the side, just grab the one side and pick it up and just give it and roll it up in the middle of your arm. And you basically handle it that way. It won't catch the wind, and it's just much easier to handle itself. And then bringing it over to your roof. Basically, keep one arm on the rolled up side of it. Just make sure it stays rolled up. And you can pick it up, slide the one end up on the roof. And once you have it resting on the roof, you can unroll it. For these shorter pieces of metal that aren't tall enough to reach the roof edge, I usually just curl them up underneath my arm and just carry them up. Do that. Just roll it up. That way you can hold it in one arm basically, so you have your other arm. Have my other arm to climb the ladder with. Our sidewall here, all we really need to do is just go straight across from our screws here. I can use a speed square to make sure they're lined up pretty nice, and just run a screw in that flat. Again, just paying attention not to suck them down too hard where you wrinkle this flat spot. So with this metal, and any standard residential metal, you can have an option of which way you want to lap, like basically which side of the roof you want to start on, or which end. Usually what I go by is, first of all, I want the laps to be facing away from the driveway. Like if you're putting a roof on, and in this case, we got the houses, everybody be looking at it from this angle basically. So I want to start on that side and lap it on top of it, going this way. And the reason is, for one, you don't see your seams if you look at it from this angle, versus if you look at it from this angle, sometimes you see them. It depends on the manufacturer of your metal. Some of them you won't see at all. Others you have to really make sure you get them sitting nice and flat, or they'll show real badly. But just in case they show, just have them to where they face back away from the driveway, or away from the front of the house, or away from the road. And also, if you're going to be looking at it from each side, and it really don't matter which end you start, the next option I like to use is which way is all your wind coming from. Now I have not seen this metal catch wind and actually blow off because somebody lapped it the wrong way, especially now that we use screws. but that's just the next option. If you have a lot of west wind, just start from the east and work your way west on the roof, lap away from the wind basically. Now that I got my metal all stacked up along the roof here, next thing is to put on some metal. And in dragging it up, I like to keep it curled. It just helps keep the metal stiffer so it won't bend. A little trick to hold the metal, because this metal will slide if I let it go, is to keep the heel of my foot on the roof and then keep the toe on the metal. It'll actually hold it for you. So once we make sure this is at 1.5 inches here, we'll go ahead and tack our first screw in. And then we'll come to the top here, and we want to make sure that this is straight along the edge of the roof here. I got it hanging over about a 3/8 on the bottom. In this case, we'll do the same at the top, and we'll put our top screws in here. Alright, ready for, well, we'll go ahead and finish tacking our bottom here. Ready for the next piece. So we know this is, it's about 1 5/8 inches actually. So we just want to keep it running consistent all the way down through there. Again, we'll go to the bottom and screw it first. Using the same technique of just using our foot to hold it. And in this case, we can actually put a screw up here. It's easier to reach. Once I've verified the bottom is good. I'll go up here. And this is really important. If you see, I don't know if you can see, but this rib, see how it's setting sideways on this other rib? In order to get this to set flat, we'll put a foot on this side and basically push it forward so you can see, so it sets flat on there. It's very important to have it pushed forward, or else your metal will start running uphill. So we'll just take our foot on the rib and just do that. Alright, now that we got the second piece established where it's going to go, measure and see how it's running. So we're running a little long, and what we'll do to that is we'll crowd it forward. Put our first screw in, and we'll try to push each rib forward as we put them in. Now if it gets really bad and it really starts running on you, you can offset each piece just a little bit, but that's a last resort. I'll try to crowd it first, and if the roof is really crooked, I will have to offset it, but again, that's a last resort. And then up top here, I'll make a mark. So we know we crowded the bottom forward, and if we crowd the top back, we'll basically really help increase trying to get it straight. And so I want to crowd this back to try to bring the bottom of the metal up. So in order to do that, I'll get my screw ready here, and I'll pull it up in the middle. And once I got that done, I'll just stand on both ribs, make sure everything's sitting flat, and I'll put these screws in. And once that's done, I might take this one back and just run it in straight. It tends to push on that screw a little bit, so we gained about 1/4 inch. We shortened a piece of metal about 1/4 inch, which will help it come up on the bottom.